today's program is Brainwave of Australian Mediums. I don't want to emphasize Australian in particular. I assume anywhere in the world mediums will show more or less the same brainwaves. It's just I was exposed to a very lovely group of people, honestly, couple of groups of people that I did a couple of trainings with the Mind Mirror, which included both training, adapted training from the Awakened Mind training that we do, and experiment with them. So I'll speak about all of these things in more detail right now. So for those of you who don't know me or maybe see me for the first time, my name is Oxana Bondarchuk, and yes, I am certified Awakened Mind Practitioner and Trainer. I'm also online events moderator, so I really appreciate everybody who comes and supports us, in particular anybody who supports us in a monetary form by buying our VIP membership, which means you get access to all our videos that we've done so far on our work. So in the past, I've done economics and I've studied psychology, and I'm particularly interested in transpersonal psychology, which takes you beyond behavior, beyond rats and rabbits, because I think we're much more than that. And I guess like attracts like, so that's why I was drawn somehow. It wasn't my conscious, choice really, because it was Inge from Wallacia Development Centre who contacted me early January this year and asked to help organize trainings for mediums, and that's how it all started. So I hope that most of you are very well aware of how Mind Mirror looks like and what we can do with it. But to emphasize the main thing, I just want to say that yes, we can monitor states of consciousness, and we are not looking into brain disorders or traumas, though we can still do that with the machine if you are trained in clinical neurofeedback. So we are mainly looking at the patterns, right? And we can correlate patterns with this or that state of mind. And the beauty of the Mind Mirror is that it operates in real time. So I can see patterns in real time live on the screen. So I can see how people respond. I can adjust my guidance if this is guided meditation. I see whole brain frequencies, and I can do group trainings. So you can see there are 4 ports here. Here is the main device. Digital sampling unit, we can see 4 ports, so you can connect up to 4 people with EEG that means you can measure brain waves of 4 people simultaneously. And then if you have more than one device and more than one computer, you can connect more. So I was doing trainings for the groups of 8. And yes, we'll be looking at brain waves, but we have options with the Mind Mirror how we want to look at them. When we analyze, we can also look at real waves, right? And mainly we are interested in how these things change as we go deeper or as we go into trance. So the key thing that really everybody liked in my training was how we associate brainwaves with different levels of mind. So beta, very fast frequency of brainwaves is associated with our conscious mind, and that's normally where most of us are when we are awake, when we are talking, thinking. So probably I have my beta running fast right now while I'm presenting this to you, and probably even some high beta present because I'm a little bit emotionally aroused. And then we can see the bridge, which is alpha. You can associate it with the water level of this iceberg. And this bridge allows us, if we open the bridge, to look deeper into our mind, into subconscious mind, which is slower, which will be 8 to 4 hertz. And then through that, we can also connect with the unconscious mind, represented by delta, which is super slow and connects us really with the unified field. So this is just a brief reminder, and the colors that I used, red for beta, green for alpha, blue for theta, and purple for delta. That's how we see things with the mind mirror. So we see frequencies represented by hertz. So this is the vertical axis here. We see left and right hemisphere. And we also see the amplitudes, which is the horizontal axis, which is measured in voltage. And also you can say it's kind of the volume or how loud it is. If frequency is more like a pitch, the amplitude is more like a volume. So that's very brief introduction for those who need a refreshment of what and how we see. And now we move to mediums. Who are mediums? And I should tell you that from my cultural background, by the word medium, I instantly imagine a person who is connected with the spirits of the dead. And that's how we used to talk about mediums in Russia. But then, you know, working and talking more to these people, I realized, oh no, it's very limited understanding. It's medium in a much broader sense. It's really someone who can connect with anything beyond this material realm, as a medium, as a channel, as a connector, as the world bridge, if you like to put it this way. So really, I ended up replacing the words for myself, and to make it really clear, we understand people with extrasensoric perception. So people who can do unusual things, who can be psychic, clairvoyant or clairsensitive, who can physically move objects, who can even materialize out of special substance the faces of the deceased, who can do all kinds of unusual things, including healing. And I think the common ground for all of them would be that they claim that most of the time they use spirit, they use someone on the other side to help them do all these unusual things. So in general, I should say they are amazing hypersensitive people, very committed to what they do as if they had a contract with the other side to do it. And they're very loyal and to their mediumship group, because they work in groups, they work in settings or in their circles, and they really more like a big family rather than group connected by common goals. So it's not mental connection, it's really very deep connection. So I copy pasted some definitions which I really liked from the internet. So this is from Arthur Findlay College in the UK. And they say mediumship involves cooperative communication between an individual and the spirit of one or more personalities in the spirit world. One of the participants said, do mediums connect only with the deceased, or can they connect with someone else? Honestly, I realized that they could connect with all kinds of consciousness, and that sometimes cannot be properly defined in our earthly terms, because this could be kind of group of consciousness that we don't have on earth. And like one soul group, one consciousness that doesn't have any material form, again, which is hard for us to relate to. And like the easier way to say, they probably connecting with some extraterrestrial consciousness as well, because there are even groups of mediums who specialize on connection with various extraterrestrials, which was very unusual to me to know as well. So there are different types of mediumship, and mental mediumship is the one which occurs through the medium's own consciousness. So the medium relates on what they feel, sense, or hear to the recipient. And the faculties used could be clairvoyance or clear seeing, clairsentience or clear sensing or feeling, and clairaudience or clear hearing. And mediums can see clairvoyantly, hear clairaudiently, feel or sense clairsentient in their own mind's eye, so subjectively, or outside of themselves objectively. And very often for such mediums, the questions would be, am I just imagining all this? Is it a glitch in my sensory channel, or is it really happening? And that's where I think the mind mirror can help. So physical mediumship is kind of more advanced or just completely different type of mediumship, which involves manipulation of energies and energy systems by spirit. So there could be all kinds of physical manifestations that can be in the form of loud raps and noises and voices, materialized objects, transfiguration, materialized spirit bodies or body parts such as hands, legs, and feet. And physical mediumship is witnessed by everyone present, regardless of whether they consider themselves psychic or not, whereas mental mediumship is only experienced by the medium through their own perception. So we haven't done much of a physical mediumship, but there will be one case that I will describe to you today. And then, of course, the key word for all mediums would be trance, because everybody is interested in altered states of consciousness where we allow the spirit world to capture our attention or even place a hold on our minds, enabling a closer blending with the spirit world. The degree of hold on the medium's mind will determine the quality and the depth of trance. So I'm reading this, but I'll make the comments from how we can see this from the mind mirror perspective. So as you know, mind mirror will reflect what's going on with our not only state of consciousness, but probably with our energy field in general. So in this or that way, if we go out of the ordinary state, we should be able to see some abnormality or something different to what's happening, if we can see, real mediumship work taking place. So the key is that blending of energy between spirit control and medium can be so strong that the medium can lose awareness but doesn't fall asleep. So as you know, we are talking about slowing down our minds. Yes, the process of trance occurs when we subdue our conscious minds, which means beta, slowing down our thinking so that the spirit world can impinge their minds on ours. So we are talking about slowing. It means reducing our beta, opening the alpha bridge and going deeper into theta and delta. In order to establish their presence. In this state, we can be in touch and at one with minds that influence, educate, uplift, and inspire. So you can see that, yes, we connect, we slow down, and I probably won't read it all. I just, in short, say that we go to that place of stillness, which very often we associate with what we call evolved mind. Losing or meditation pattern, so it will be anywhere in between meditation pattern, awakened mind, and evolved mind. And then we lose our consciousness even more, and we go even deeper, and one may become really, really passive. And in short, let's say that we have somehow to slow down, which at the same time sometimes is referred to uplifting your frequencies, and the spirit world has to kind of go down in their frequencies or fasten up a bit to be able to match our consciousness, because through this blending the relationship is possible, the connection is possible. So in short, let's summarize what is required for trance and what it means for us. Relaxed but focused attention, clear, sharp mind, ability to concentrate on one or few things at a time, So you can clearly see that, you know, the first and the second sends us, we need to reduce and calm down our beta, and we need to open alpha bridge to have this flow and clarity and sharp mind and detachment from thoughts, everyday problems, expectations. Again, alpha, open alpha will do that. Internal awareness, opening alpha bridge, looking into subconscious will do that. Reception channels, sensoric channels, opened, clear, and volume tuned to maximum. Yes, all our alpha um, activation, so to say, sequences and exercises and meditations, they are aimed to help you become more clairsentient, because they sensualize you more. They remind you you have more than one sensory channel to receive information through. So since we are interacting through our sensory channels with this world, we need to make sure they all are on and open on maximum volume, tuned into maximum volume to receive. Open heart, no prejudice and expectations, no blocks. Yes, because if, again, if you are fearful or you have blocks or belief systems that sit in your theta, you're prejudiced, you won't be able to merge or blend. You have to have this open heart and trust. Connection with the unified field, source, cosmos, collective consciousness, intuition. You can see probably open delta there, or active delta, because that's how we connect with the unified field. And of course, very important is balanced and efficient work or communication of left and right hemisphere. So here I'm in our left and right hemispheres work together. The brain is symmetrical, balanced. The communication, the flow between left and right is easy. And yeah, I guess the word coherence would apply here too, because our whole brain is more coherent. So it can efficiently process incoming information. So basically, these are conditions required for trance that you'll find in various information sources. If you do your own research, if you read, I don't know, the most popular books on channeling and more information and trainings on mediums, and you can see I just made comparison or connection with the mind mirror and with the awakened mind training of how we see these things and how we can help. So most of mediums, when they came to this training, they asked these questions. How do brainwaves relate to different state of consciousness? Of course, we can tell them this from our more than 40 years research of enlightened and quite talented and efficient people. What are my brainwaves like? Of course, do I have anything? Of course they do. How can I calm down my mind? Because even though they have this ability, sometimes they are still struggling with calming down their minds and reducing their beta. Am I thinking or imagining it, or is it real? So if I see that there is a flow, the alpha bridge is open, and there's really more work involved in theta and delta than usual, and reduced beta, so they're not thinking it, it's more likely for me that they're doing a real job. What happens when I'm going into trance? You know, trance very often is understood that in mediumship language that would mean they connect with spirit, but more often in I guess traditional science it will be related to non-ordinary or altered states of mind, and we alter mind when we reduce beta, open alpha, and keep expanding into awakened mind and evolved mind, opening all bottlenecks. And again, I'll show you the patterns a bit later. How can I remember the content better? And yes, we know as we slow down and as we go deeper, we really need to leave some beta, at least lower beta bands on as an observer to register the incoming information. So, and that's exactly what awakened mind pattern was about, say, compared to meditation pattern, where we assume it's just silent meditation. Yes, we go deeper, we have access to these lower levels of mind, but we keep some conscious mind on to remember. How can I easier let go of control and allow blending or surrendering? And this is a whole big exercise in itself. So I associated it with kind of training them to sense or to become more aware how it feels like to go deeper into theta and letting things go even deeper, just letting go into delta, into the universal field, and allow for that blending or trust for information to come in, for something to happen, and to receive, to be able to receive. And then, can I build awareness and mastery around navigating different states at will? And I can tell you, yes, they do. They all were quite good at what they were doing, even to the extent that as a kind of final exam or final exercise of how well they navigate the brainwaves, I gave them one of my favorite meditations, Exercise Your Game. So, which exactly tells you, naming the brainwave to go deeper and look for solutions to your creative problems. But again, this is a very good exercise just to kind of check how a person responds when you give this guidance, when you name brainwaves. And I could actually see them, when they say, think about your problem in beta, they were doing that. Start relaxing, open up, sense it with all your senses, which means alpha. I could see that, how they were opening their alpha. And then let the seed, plant the seed in your subconscious, let it go deeper into theta. Yes, they had active theta, they had theta opening, and then completely let go and let it grow. And that I could see them showing the maximum delta in that period. So it was really amazing. And the most amazing case was when one man kept falling asleep. And with mediums, sometimes it's tricky because sleepy pattern or channeling pattern is quite common for them. So most of them will stay awake while showing channeling pattern. But this person kept falling asleep. But nevertheless, I could see that he was doing this exercise. So when I was saying, do this, open this, go there, he was still opening. And I was really amazed. I said, you must be an excellent student. You must be like doing the exercise in your sleep, or your subconscious is still doing the work. That's amazed me most, because I didn't expect to see that. So I just named what we can do and how we can help them. So when we talk about blending or receiving, I put this as an ultimate listening formula. So talking about beta or conscious mind, we want no talking, no thinking, no judgment. We want our walkie-talkie, so to say, in reception mode, because you can either talk yourself or you can receive. And we need beta just as an observer to remember the material that is coming in, to register what's coming in and to remember. Alpha, we need our line, or say line like telephone line or connection line, open, switched on, all channels open, and volume set on maximum on all sensory channels. Yes, we receive through 5 sensory channels. If we're talking about clairsentience, we want to remember about all of them, and volume switched on maximum. Theta, we want no blockages, no limiting beliefs. We need open heart and to be very receptive. And you can compare it with like clear, transparent windscreen. So whatever is coming from the field, from delta, is not distorted or disturbed with our inner perceptions, inner beliefs. It's all clean and transparent. Delta, our radar, antenna, telescope, so to say, our connection with the unified field is zoomed out to maximum, and ability to stretch and include others is important there, but not losing yourself in it, because it's quite hard sometimes for them, if they go too far, their consciousness dive in too far into unified field, to kind of collect themselves back. And then gamma is a special case. It's hypersensitivity and processing power. And I probably would like to use the word booster. And again, I'll speak about it more. And gamma, sometimes I also called it as direct line with the other side of cosmos. So that means most of mediums in this or that way, even if normally they don't have it, they may switch on gamma in situations when they need the booster, when they need to boost their sensitivity, when they need to boost their processing power. So in some ways, it's quite logical. You can't say that to some extent they transcend the earthly realm and they are connecting with other realms. So these are training programs. I won't go into detail what exactly I did, but if you are interested, I'll leave the presentation and you can check in detail. Of course, we were working on training beta, we were working on focus, concentration, external awareness. We were working on personal boundaries because bubble meditation was great. They all loved it. And since they all are hypersensitive people, they really needed this extra kind of double check on their personal boundaries to feel when they're sitting in their consciousness or when they are allowing others in and how it feels like. So that was a beautiful exercise for them, kind of to help them feel more secure, so to say, and more aware of where their boundaries are and what they can do if they like or don't like others, and how to open up, to stretch, to allow others in, stretching the bubble. So it was very interesting and great thing to do with them. And of course, experiments. And the second module was about more like working with sensory channels and subconscious and trying to kind of help them practice allowing or surrendering more and going deeper into trance more, plus checking how aware they've become of their brain waves and how they can switch them on demand, as I mentioned before in Exercise Your Game. So here we arrive, the medium's brainwaves. What's in common? As I said, types of mediumship work is different. The people that I worked with are different. Some are really working on, like, in classical traditional sense of mediumship, working in groups, calling spirits, using various devices for communication with them. Others are trying to materialize, physically. It's all far out things, bending spoons. Others just busy with paranormal investigation of ghosts and paranormal activities here and there. Doing tarot readings or all kinds of psychic readings. So really it was a blend of all kinds of people. Many interested in healing as well, trance healing, where they heal or allow healing to happen through someone else. Many, I can say, they are like channelers. They can channel other consciousness. So it's unusual group of people. So the first finding, brainwaves training levels of those of long-term meditators. So mediums will show patterns of higher states and training levels, statistics or scores of training levels similar to those of long-term meditators. So that means that the nature of work, mediumship work that they do, is similar to regular deep meditative practice and eventually leads the brain to more optimal states. So as I mentioned before, they're very committed to their work. So they'll meet regularly each week, I don't know, probably more than once a week in their circles and sit-ins, and they'll keep practicing again and again and again. And surprising, interesting fact here is that some of them were completely new to traditional, to us, or usual to me, guided meditations that we use in our training. So they were even struggling to adjust to someone else's guidance because they're so used to guide themselves. And now I'm using some exercises and meditations in my training to help them evolve or become more aware of their brainwaves. So that's an interesting observation. So if you want exact statistics, it's very rough, but this is true. So they definitely will sit on training level 5. TL stands for training level, for awakened mind. And we say that training level is attained when you show at least 70% on that level. So Most of them will be more likely, they'll definitely be on training level 5, but more likely they'll be somewhere over 90% on training level 5 for awakened mind. Then evolved mind, as you remember, requires balanced brain, right? So it means left and right hemisphere are symmetrical, so it's more challenging. That means we kind of one level, training level behind, but they will all still sit on training level 6 for sure, where most of them will show scores over 80% because they're quite advanced. Then for those, if we measure gamma synchrony, and as I said, from time to time, even though brain profile or like the baseline didn't show any gamma, they switch gamma, I don't know, on demand or in special circumstances. They know how to access it, this booster when they need it. So it will be training level 6 for sure, but most advanced will show over, like most of them will show over 90%, and most advanced, very advanced, will even go and show training level 5, so they're even level higher than all others. DE stands for Delta Expansion, and as you know, Delta is the main tools of psychics and mediums and healers. It's like your main muscle. I call it your invisible hand, like virtual hand that you can stretch and see and touch things that are not available to you physically. So again, training level 5 for sure, but most of them will be over 90% on training level 5, and then very advanced, most advanced of them will be even show in training level 4, so scores over 70% on training level 4. So this is the reference for you of how advanced they are. And probably if we could measure or if we had statistics collected for channeling pattern and out-of-body pattern, we would see amazing statistics for these patterns too. So if you are not sure what the patterns are like or you don't remember, I'll go to them in a second. They show similar pattern dynamics. So most typical patterns for mediums will be awakened mind, or I called it the pattern of flow. So as soon as you open Alpha Bridge, you start building the flow between your conscious and subconscious mind, between beta and theta. Channeling or trance pattern is quite common, and evolved mind, oneness pattern is quite common. Some mediums will go into out-of-body or near out-of-body states. And the main difference will be how much the person stays in this or that pattern, as well as how stable the flow is and if there is any gamma activity. So let me remind you, if you don't quite remember what patterns are, here's a very quick reminder with classical definitions that probably are worth reminding. So this is awakened mind pattern, which we can also name, like the synonyms could be the flow or high performance or sensory awareness, our high experience, the pattern of creativity. The meditation pattern, by meditation pattern we mean no beta, beta still, so it's silent. Externalized with eyes open goes to the awakened mind pattern. Max Cade found that spiritual teachers had another fact in common. They tended to produce beta, alpha, theta, and delta in their normal waking states. In other words, they tended to produce some of the brainwave characteristics of meditation throughout their everyday lives. When they wanted to think or cogitate, they just added the beta thinking waves to their continual meditation state. So just to relate back to what we were talking about and their request, how can I go deep, stay in trance, but remember, help me remember what's happening there. So it means we need to practice this awakened mind. We need to practice some beta to help them remember. The awakened mind pattern is composed of the meditation pattern with a curved low amplitude beta. This pattern provides access to beta's mental clarity, alpha's relaxed and sensory awareness, theta's memories, insights, creativity, and spiritual connection, and delta's instinctual psychic awareness and empathy. The mind is awake to its full potential. So this is one of the patterns common to mediums. So first step, you open your alpha bridge, and then you go deeper into channeling. That means your theta is opening more, and then your delta is opening more. This is not the best representation, but it starts looking more like a skirt. Here it says some people transform evolved mind into so-called channeling or trance pattern. So evolved is the circular, no bottlenecks. Channeling is this one. Not necessarily the order is the same. I'll speak about the order a bit later. But let's just focus on the pattern. This pattern is common to psychic readers, mediums, people who can read minds, see others' people's feelings, can travel to other times and realities, experience visit from spirits. This pattern is also common to healers during building up and transmitting healing energy to the healee. This is a pattern of psychically spiritually advanced people. Normal people with no meditative experience will be likely to be in a sleep when showing this pattern. So excessive delta is a sign of extra sensitive and empathic people. Delta is also very strong in open, receptive people searching for new experiences in life and especially for a spiritual connection. Reaching out to sense, touch, and feel the unseen, their radar is hyperextended a great deal of the time, and consequently their psychic abilities continually increase in power and strength. The delta amplitudes of accomplished hands-on healers and Qigong masters can extend to an astonishing 50 to 200 microvolts compared to meditation delta extending to a typical 5 to 10 microvolts on the mind mirror screen. So you can see that if we judge the pattern which frequency is more dominant, in this case really delta will be more dominant, so theta will go over alpha and delta will go over theta. And in Anna Weiss's book there is a case where she's describing a girl who had problems with studies and interaction because she was seeing spirit world, she was seeing spirit people in other realities, and this was the pattern or similar pattern or shape you'll find in Anna Weiss's book if you're interested. So evolved mind, this is awakened mind without really expanding further, no bottlenecks, balanced. So circular shape, representing oneness or non-duality, you go beyond duality. Inner unity. You can also say it's kind of ultimate presence where you're totally like, you're physically present, you're mentally present, you're present on every possible level. Connection with the source. The awakened mind pattern amplified by the release of self-separation and connection with its creative and spiritual source into the circular evolved mind of inner unity, ultimate presence, oneness, and illumination, where, using the words of Max Cade, it feels unified with something far vaster than itself. The person who produces this brainwave pattern is typically on some kind of spiritual path that unites him or her with what feels like the essence of life. This essence transmits fully developed pictures, words, complex patterns and sensations that travel from universal awareness into the evolved mind pattern. High knowledge flows in as the psyche is held in the grip of a loving power that exists in this earth and beyond it. The evolved mind pattern, made possible by the conscious mind's surrender of its ego, appears when beta, alpha, theta, and delta merge and resonate with the greater whole. Delta curves upward as what was not known or understood before in oneself or universal awareness becomes known and understood. So in extreme cases, we can see them going, what we would say, out of body. So all the brain waves would collapse. I can still see green lights, everything's still connected, but for some reason it just looks like flat as nobody's at home anymore. So like, yogis can stop their hearts. So apparently our consciousness is not physically connected to the brain, and it can just go out and have fun elsewhere, not like necessarily taking place in our brain as electrical activity. So in out-of-body pattern, all brainwave categories become insignificantly small. That's what I observed more than ever in these two groups of mediums. So every brainwave category would collapse under 3 microvolts or even less, under 1 microvolt. Sometimes delta is left open, and I was joking, it's if they come out to the unified field and they leave delta door open to the unified field to make it easier to come back. In other words, the pattern may be called nobody's at home, brain stops registering any significant brain electrical activity. The same pattern can be seen when there is a signal problem or there is no connection, but when the green lights or connection quality are on and there is definitely no program there, it's kind of a very rare extraordinary pattern. Research shows that it can be seen in those who are able to do astral projection and sometimes channeling mediumship work. So, and in some cases we can see gamma, and to remind you, gamma sits on top of beta. These are the high frequencies over like 30 hertz, so the top like high bands, and gamma on top of awakened mind, we call it a superconscious mind or pattern. And if gamma sits integrated on top of evolved mind, we call it universal consciousness. What are they associated with? It's worth reminding because gamma is a special case for mediums. Over the past decade, neuroscientists and other mind researchers have associated gamma waves with high attentional focus, profound aha insights, compassion, transcendence, out-of-body experiences, and spiritual insight and ecstasy. Gamma is most commonly found in advanced meditators, highly creative people, psychics, energy healers, and practitioners of Qigong, yoga, and compassion meditation. The effects of gamma frequencies on the brain and consciousness are profound and lasting. Gamma synchronizes the brain across frequencies and regions, forming new neurons, brain cells in the frontal cortex and hippocampus to power up intelligence, intuition, memory, and spirituality. Stimulated by gamma, these states of consciousness arise, the brain's prefrontal cortex, the seat of human intelligence, meaning that the evolutionary movement of the brain's intelligence is in the direction of the spirit. So yes, this is kind of cosmic consciousness when we talk about gamma. High attentional focus, intelligence, compassion, spirituality, neuroplasticity. So I keep saying gamma works as a booster. So whenever they need extra power, whenever they need extra sensitivity, they'll boost gamma. Pattern dynamics for mediums. So as I said, the order would be something like this. So we all start with the ordinary pattern, where we see beta on top is dominant and alpha theta really is just like more like a bottleneck, and then there might be some delta. So this is ordinary pattern where most of us are. And the trance begins when we open the bridge and we allow for the flow to build in between our conscious and subconscious mind, in between beta and theta. So normally most of them will jump straight to awakened mind very, very fast. And you'll see that they will show alpha open with eyes open, and I'll speak about it later. So here, if they have gamma, instead of awakened mind, we will see superconsciousness, superconscious mind or pattern. So this one. Then very quickly they drift further and open all bottlenecks into what we call evolved mind pattern. So it becomes very balanced and very how to say, connected. There are no bottlenecks anymore. And then in case they have gamma, this will be universal consciousness. So let me remind, like, since in case of max K times, there was no possibility to measure gamma, and now we can measure gamma from 30 to 100 hertz. We have this sensitive equipment that allows to do that. I would still not like go too crazy about it and just say, okay, it will be a circular pattern with gamma on top, which we call universal consciousness. So really, awakened mind, evolved mind, and then sometimes they will go into channeling pattern after awakened mind, or sometimes they'll go into channeling pattern out of evolved mind. So this is number 3. So what you can see here, alpha opened up in awakened mind. Here more theta is building up, so you kind of drift deeper. And in channeling pattern, more delta is building up after. I mean, logically to me would be more like 1, 2, 3, but sometimes it happens in the other way around. It happens like 1, 3, 2. But really, this 1, 2, 3, or 1, 3, 2, it's like a dance. Most of them will be sitting and repeating these 3 patterns like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, like in a waltz, you know. And the difference would be how long they spend in this or that state. Some spend more time in awakened mind, others in evolved mind, and others in channeling, prefer channeling pattern. And in extreme cases, yes, they drop out and they show something like out of body pattern. More often I saw it with delta open, and it's more like the scale, you know, the scale of delta makes all other brainwave categories insignificant. And we'll talk about delta a bit more. So when you have delta and no other categories or insignificant other categories, you may call it also yoga nidra pattern or deep relaxation pattern. So this will be the dynamics that I observed again and again, and there were a few people that I think their brainwaves behaved like excellent students. I called them, you're like excellent, and your brainwaves behave like diligent, excellent student. They literally show what kind of you expect to see, especially when we were doing different meditations, exercises, say we're training channeling pattern. Okay, they're going into channeling pattern. We are doing experiment, and they'll do exactly like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and they're like, okay, I can see it. You proved it to me. Now let's go further. So interesting facts again about patterns. I said they the difference would be how often, how long they spend in this or that pattern. So natural mediums will tend to spend more time in patterns approximated evolved mind pattern or similar looking circular pattern with integrated gamma on top. So most of natural mediums, they will tend to go into this, either here or here. To the extent that a few times, which to me was quite rare, it looked like as summary dominant pattern for the session. Natural mediums also would show high training level scores compared to others in a group for awakened mind, evolved mind, delta expansion, and sometimes gamma synchrony. So gamma is a booster, but it's not prerequisite. It's not necessary. They can still do the work without it. So it may be on, may be off. And then an interesting fact is that when mediums work, they start their work with emotional uplifting or building up energy or power. And we did building up your power, sitting in your power experiment. And so when we do that, all participants were approximating the circular evolved mind pattern more often than ever before, which maybe want to call the evolved mind the pattern of connection with your power. I mean, you're really sitting in your power and wisdom and truth, of course, but the circular pattern will be pattern of your power. And that's what I saw. So here I picked like dominant patterns, which to me most closely resembled evolved mind, though Judith would say they had a little bit too much alpha. So it needs more sacrifice of alpha to represent a perfect evolved mind. But look still how close they are to the circle. 1 is different. Medium 4 is a typical gamma person. So it will have kind of a gamma synchrony instead of the circle. But you can see like 3 obvious cases where they're just round, almost very close to the circle. And here I put this to show you the importance of hemispheric balancing on evolved mind scores. So if you watched one of my previous webinars that I did in 2017, and it was about hemispheric balancing. So I did this balancing exercises, which kind of they go beyond what we have in traditional awakened mind training. I put it together, and they include some kinesiology and physical exercises. So we've done these exercises, and then we did Anavaiz's hemispheric balancing exercise straight after. And since this was the first exercise meditation that we did after these balancing exercises, you can see that it's like if they were on 71% for House of Doors, and then they jumped 21% and showed evolved mind like 20% higher after doing these exercises. So I'm just saying how important it is, the balance for evolved mind scores, and how you can boost it. And then look, after that, the whole day we can see overall scores. Yes, they dropped back, but they were still much higher than before. So before it was 60, 60, 67, 66, and then we ended up with 87. 80 plus, really. It's plus 10% for sure. So,
Oksana,
yeah.
if I may add here, this is really great how you are using so many of the portals advantages and benefits for this presentation. I mean, it's really been nice to see the brainwaves that you're actually using the brainwave display inside the portal, which shows those microvoltages, and now you're showing the trend report. So this is fantastic. You imported all of their sessions into the portal to be able to get these trend charts with the numbers, and to switch back and forth from the patterns, the levels, and then the patterns at the top right, to be able to look at the contrasts and comparisons, and to be able to make these conclusions. So this is fantastic. I really appreciate what you're doing here.
Judy, thank you for adding this in, because really I wanted to say special thanks to Andrew, because I did my first training in June after, our first COVID wave was kind of down and restrictions eased. And it was still in like work in progress. The portal was still work in progress. So I literally was the first one to start using it heavily, because I told Andrew, I have 8 people, and then 8 people again, and then second training for this group, second training for that group. We were doing tons of meditation. I'll go crazy if I had to do click, click, click for each person each time. So really, it's the savior for me. The Mind Mirror portal was the savior for me. And yes, it is beautiful that you can see full dynamics, and you can see where you started and you can see where you ended. And I mean, I know the dates. You can't see the dates, but I can clearly see the dates, and how, the scores for different dates were slightly different, and how we started the day with this, physical balancing exercises that, we've done it in, as I mentioned in one of my previous webinars. And you can see the effect. You can see how it was definitely lasting, at least for the day, and significantly improving the score straight away. So thank you, Andrew, for this beautiful tool. And I invite everybody to have a closer look and really analyzing. I have so much information that I realized that probably I could do another program and just literally just do a few more cases, just look at interesting meditations that we did, like Cosmic Waves is a great meditation with like separate really time and separate story. Exercise Your Game, same story, separate time, because I've done lots of analysis, and I can give you lots of, illustrations and comments, and you can see theta keys, alpha keys. That was very interesting exercise where I just ask them to kind of from all our previous exercise meditations, pick the top 3 that they think works best for them, and then compare the scores, kind of double check which is best of the best. And it was amazing to see how people came up with dogs and children and cats. And since we are talking about mediums, powerful keys were also connection with their spirit group. Honestly, connection with their spirit group, that was very interesting. Again, theta keys can be separate case. I can talk a lot about all the experiments that I did because it's fun. So for now, I'll continue, and I want to mention this because I think that's very interesting, and we hardly ever mentioned that. But I brought it up in the training because I was saying sitting in the power, you remember? So really, where does it sit on the emotional scale? And we are talking about, from the brainwaves perspective, it looks like we are slowing down. From the overall vibrational perspective, it looks like we are speeding up and elevate to non-material. So I use pictures from Joe Dispenza book, and you can see that power sits here. So lust, pain, victimization, suffering, shame, guilt, fear, anger, control. So you have to go above all that to, you know, really do the work that they are doing. And so that's why I found the whole, like both groups really, whole groups, they were, they had beautiful, I don't know, vibe or beautiful atmosphere, lots of openness and love and appreciation. So they're not only, you know, hypersensitive, they can go, so to say, light and loving and joyful very quickly. Isn't it a beautiful group to work with? And as you remember, we were talking about mediums uplifting their frequency, uplifting their emotions, building their power, and the spirit world kind of slowing down to connect with us. So really, they go into joy and love and like all this positive emotion. They sing songs. I didn't realize that that's how they work because I was so new to mediums. They sing songs. Some of them are pop songs. Some of them are more like, I don't know, not esoteric or spiritual, but like they're definitely uplifting songs that make you feel joyful, that make you feel open, that make you feel love. Okay, so this might be interesting for you to know. This is as I said, natural mediums, they tend to spend more time in evolved mind. So look, this is the very beginning of the training. I'm doing baseline with eyes open, and this is second 4, and the person quickly goes into what we can see almost like a circle. Natural medium. So I worked out that their brain must know how to go into more optimal states, and we all know that not only functional for what they do, they also feel good. So they just figured out how to feel good and how to do what they need to do, and they go there really fast. And that's her feedback on how she describes this state. So just not long ago, I read you the whole definition that we have in the manual for evolved mind. This is the feedback from the natural medium. The sweet spot, as I call it, also known as the being in the power, altering my state of mind to a conscious point of awareness. In that state is ability for knowledge and communication for spirit and the collective consciousness. As a psychic medium, I can blend with my client, often emotionally at first. I become them, so to speak. We become one, then link into my power. For me, anything can be seen in this state. The memories of another, health, relationships, and to be completely honest, the chosen path to expect. Past, present, future. I believe it's a vibration or frequency I'm able to connect to. It holds words and images in my brain makes sense of. At times I see things I do not understand but can describe. I also use this power to move the table. So we did table tipping, and I'll talk about it later, as you saw, with eyes open. So when we say you lose it when you open your eyes, no, they don't. They may lose it like for a short term, but they quickly come back. They hold on to their power. They sit in this sweet spot, and that's how she described it. Again, another star. Alpha with eyes open. So it means they start opening awakened mind or approximating awakened mind, and they're building up the bridge between conscious and unconscious, subconscious mind. So and of course, they show this with eyes open, and with eyes closed, alpha will be even bigger, of course. So I assume this is the result of a regular training with eyes open that allows them to make sure they have the flow and access to the trance states and to the information that they're trying to channel or connect with. So this is the baseline for mediums for group 1. Just to give you an example, and you can clearly see EO stands for eyes open, EC stands for eyes closed. So you can see it, for some, it hardly makes any difference at all whether they have eyes open or eyes closed. They are there, simply, they are there. And yes, with eyes open, of course, gamma is simulated more. You may expect a bit more gamma. And gamma people, their particular story, it can be another program, gamma in mediums, with lots of interesting cases on that. So this is...
Oksana, can I point out something here too?
Yeah.
This is interesting how they drop their alpha peak when they close their eyes, though, from 10.5 in medium 3 and 4 to 9, and medium 2 did too.
Yeah.
So you can see them dive.
Yeah. Yeah. So just to briefly mention, since this was a group, I had to adapt what we usually use in our training as a brain profile. So I figured out how to run it for a group of 8. But still the core was the same. We had the same, they were talking to me in their mind, telling me about their day, and like we were doing stressful exercises, and I did Stroop test for stress for them the other day as well, to kind of stir them and then help them to relax. So we played a lot. And eyes closed, the main part of eyes closed was the relaxation meditation, where you go into the place of peace and stillness. So that's really was quite representative, because I bet this was one of the deepest places that they could go, possibly could go in the beginning of the training, because it's a beautifully written meditation and they all enjoyed it, I could tell. So this is group 2. And yeah, you see, it's like eyes closed and they start immediately drifting deeper. It's not, sometimes not even alpha, they start going into theta and even deeper straight away. So, but again, it may not be like medium 3. You can see it's not perfect, really, alpha proportions to beta and theta to consider this awakened mind. But still, to me, the first step is to connect with someone. I say, pick the phone, right? You have to start the line kind of to connect. And alpha bridge, as you open the bridge, you start connecting. You start building up the flow. So this is the first step. Independently flexible theta. So this is very interesting. Mediums have independently flexible theta. It feels like it literally can go any side and stretch any corner with individual theta bands sticking out from the rest of the pattern or forming unusual configurations. If it was just the lowest band pulled by strong delta surges, that could be explained. But this can be any of the 3 theta bands, and I'll show you the pictures shortly. And one medium pointed out that potentially it may look like holding the connection. So I'm showing you this. So it's really a bit unusual. You know, normally the brainwaves ripple, so they work together, right? With neighbor bands, they would kind of like, you know, ripples in the water. When you drop a stone in the water, they'll kind of all relate. But then sometimes you see this theta band sticking out, and it doesn't happen just once. It happens, you know, our brain, if you watch the brain waves live, it's like a dance. They're in constant movement. So for some people, especially beginners with the mind mirror work, it's really hard to track and see something behind, because they change all the time. They change all the time. But for me, it was remarkable when they opened the sticking theta band, and then I see 1 second, because I see like 1 frame rate per second. So I see 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, and it's still sticking out. For the brain, it's a lot. Then it drops out, and then it comes back again. and then it comes back again. And very often it's the same, say, either lowest or middle theta band. And for one person, I don't remember, I think it was around 10 or 15 minutes session, and I count in around 35 these sticking theta moments. It's like, it's a lot. What's going on there? It looks suspicious. It looks odd. So I'm just, for me, it's an open question. I can't say I'm stating the truth here, but I'll give you my arguments and what I see in it. And I welcome you when you are doing your sessions, your research, please pay more attention whether you see this in normal people, because it kind of stroked my eye with mediums, this particular sticking out beta thing. So in various, different shapes, you have this theta, and then I'll talk in more detail. This is group 2, by the way. So it's not just, some person. It kind of is repetitive. Sometimes there are 2 sticking bands out, and you're like, what's this? What's this? What's going on there? And I just want to show you the scale as well. So I enlarged it to show you that, say picture 1 to the left, you can see all brain waves will sit within 10 microvolts, and then 1 theta band will jump out almost double of that to 20. What's going on there? Then the picture to the right, you'll see all of them definitely sit somewhere within like 25 microvolts. And then suddenly these 2 theta bands, they just stretch out and they go above 60 microvolts. What's going on there? It's really unusual. And it's not just once, it repeats again and again and again. If it happens and it sits there and repeats itself throughout the session, I become suspicious to it, like it means something. So as one of the mediums said, it looks like when they go and establish the connection, it may look like this hook, theta hook. They picked they opened their heart, they threw their fishing nets out and they caught the fish. The spirit is there, they hold on the connection, and it looks like sticking out theta band. That is my hypothesis for now.
Oxana?
Yeah?
From a neuroscience standpoint, that increase in voltage indicates more and more neurons are doing the same thing. In other words, a wider circuit,
Yeah.
a much denser circuit across the brain. So that's what the voltage would indicate, the change in voltage like that. And that's pretty dramatic.
I on purpose enlarged these 2 just to show the scale. It's not something insignificant, it's something significant, because if it's a double of all other frequencies, something is going on that particular level. So I'll keep talking, and you will get kind of more ideas or clues to what it might be and how we may interpret it. So connection with the group. As I said, we had with all groups, we did bubble meditation, which is about expanding your bubble to feel better, your conscious, subconscious, your field, how you feel in your consciousness, in your bubble, and how you feel when you start letting people in the group, in your bubble, and when everybody is in, how it feels. And then we expanded it further to include everybody, like, and then just everybody on earth. We tried that. And then everybody you loved, and then inviting someone that you have problems with into your bubble, and how would you respond to that? And of course, mediums, first group was really, how to say, coherent. They work a lot with each other, and I found that they have very strong and loving connection with their group. All members showed beautiful evolved mind pattern approximations or unusual activities in their theta bands when sitting in a group consciousness bubble. When they commented on inviting others in the group into the energy bubble, they tend to let those in first with whom they normally do sit-ins or their mediumship work with. So, literally, whoever is easier for you to invite, who is more typical for you, you kind of blend with them more often than with others, you invite first. When they did so, they all claimed to feel more of their own power, as if others were amplifiers for their power. The similar effect was observed when they were asked to invite loved ones into their bubble. What a great metaphor for the evolved mind as the power of unity and oneness. When asked to leave the group bubble, some even showed signs of resistance and stress. I said, now you leave. No, no, it feels too good. I'm in my power. I feel how strong we are together. And why do I have to leave it? Literally. And most of them, let me say, so when I said now invite everybody in the room into your bubble, invite the one person, another person. So I wasn't naming people, so they were inviting those that they felt closest with first, as I said, the easiest ones to let in, then like, you know, least and least, you know, favorable or easy for them to invite. And then since we were working with mediums, they were inviting their spirit friends, because I personally couldn't see them, and as we discussed with them, I realized I'm just not letting it consciously happen, because I said, I need to sleep well at night, thank you. So I'm happy not to see with my eyes, with my vision, what's going on here. Some of them are very easy, and they would say, oh yeah, there was this ET there, our friend. This is because we did training in the room where they normally do sit-ins, in the room that has seen 10 years of mediumship work. So of course the lights were flickering, the machines didn't want to start working, and at times I had to say, hey people, I understand that if I'm coming to work with a group of mediums, I should expect some spirit people in the room, but please don't mess up with my equipment, thank you. And then the amount of goosebumps that I had, it's unbelievable. Never ever in my lifetime I had so many goosebumps at once, you know, once after another. And then especially during experiments, and especially when I felt that something is going to happen and the person is going to start channeling, I could feel goosebumps of all of my body as a confirmation of someone's presence. You know, someone is here, someone is ready to connect, and that's how I feel the presence through my goosebumps. So really it's amazing. But then look at this. I picked a few pictures of mediums group connection, and look, this is where they often show the signs of theta sticking bands. And that's what made me think that when they connect with their spirit group, they must connect it again through the theta, through theta frequencies somehow, through theta bands. And we can also, I mean, we can associate beta with our mind to some extent, but alpha with sensory channels to some extent, roughly with our body and sensoric channels, right? And then we can associate theta with our heart, because whenever we think of something we love, we genuinely love, our heart opens up, and I can see theta opening up. And we can see connecting with loved ones will open up theta and makes you sit more in your power. So it makes me think power, when you open your theta, you go into evolved mind. It's when theta is leveling with alpha, the middle part is kind of leveling, start building up a circle. So really it made me think that spirit guides, they must connect through these sticking out bands in theta. And lots of mediums, they will say whenever they started their work early in the years, they would have to kind of do some theta cleaning, or we know we have our blocks and dysfunctional programs is sitting in our subconscious, our beliefs, whatever is not working for us, it sits in our subconscious. So they had to work and clear something. They had to go through hard times, so to say, to crack and open up their theta. And that's what I think made them very, very flexible in their theta and very open in their hearts. They're very receptive. They just easy. They may not have cleared all the stuff, of course, but they're very receptive and open to receive.
Oxana, it's not just the theta, it's also the delta. It's
Yeah.
theta and delta. If you look at all of these charts, you see the same thing. Theta and delta are opening up.
Yeah.
Also, I wanted to ask you, did you include the pulse volume sensor for heart rate variability? Because I'll bet you would have seen that that was very much in coherence across all of them.
Deborah, I probably, if I have a chance, I'll do experiment, but I was
Yep.
limited by how many people I can connect to EEG.
Sure.
Since it was 8 people group, I was using 2 mind mirror devices. I just didn't have enough ports to plug in for the blood volume pulse. I'll do it in a smaller group. Say if I had a group of 4, I could easily do that. And we probably will repeat this experiments because I think I have enough sensors to do that. So we'll
Terrific.
see. Yeah, I mean, all I can say for you now, I'm not going to look at this case right now, but if you are interested, I can save it for another program. There was a session, experimental session done not by me, by Andrea, but I was analyzing it with Inge. And what we saw experienced channeler who collapsed into what I called near out of body pattern, to let the spirit in, and then he started speaking in another voice. So it kind of, what you see, normal pattern, awakened mind, and then he goes deep, and then suddenly everything collapses, and only delta is open, and then suddenly he's coming back, and he's speaking in a different voice, and he's channeling. At the end of channeling, the process happens again. Everything collapses, delta is open, and then he's back in his normal self. And when he was coming back, there was a jolt in GSR and BVP because that person was connected, as if this electrical jolt wasn't an artifact. It affected every single physiological factor. So someone in, someone out, and it goes with a jolt or this kick or shift or something. So that's just to show you, yes, it is related, definitely. So one more thing, what I was thinking about, we all are not mediums, but in my family and among my friends, I very often heard stories about, deceased people say, on the night when my father's mother was dying, she showed up in his dream. And we know that, theta is quite active during rapid eye movement sleep. When we see dreams, we see theta at work. So it looks like we kind of tapping into the same thing. Even if we are not mediums, we allow, or the connection is possible on theta frequencies during our sleep. So that was another argument for me for this unusual sticking bands.
And that delta that you spoke about, and the one falling asleep and yet was aware of things, guess where your parasomnias occur? Sleepwalking and night terrors, out of the deepest delta stage sleep, which indicates that some part of the brain is awake while some other part is very deeply asleep. So even the brain can segment consciousness in different areas.
Yeah, I'll speak about delta a little bit later. So for now, I just wanted to mention once again the many books on channeling will say that kids have this ability to see spirits and non-material worlds, whatever that is, but they will lose it after 6 years old, definitely. Some lose it earlier, some lose it, but definitely after 6 years old, they lose it. As soon as they go to school, very likely, it's all over. But they live in this dream world where they can see the spirit. And again, if you see the age dynamics, I think I borrowed it from somewhere, again, from probably Anna Weiss's book. So 2 to 6 years old, you see theta. So it's another thing pointing kind of in the same direction to me. When they get the fish, they get the spirit. I'll see this hook, this fish in the theta frequencies. And of course, here we come. Very strong delta. Mediums have very active delta. Main psychic muscle for mediums, healers, readers. The Mind Mirror Manual says that the average amplitude for the most of people would be in between 3 and 12 microvolts. For those with psychic abilities, we may expect delta to be 10 or even 20 times higher and go the whole way above 100 microvolts. And I will show you the patterns from, again, 4 mediums from each group. And due to the nature of their work with eyes open, they will tend to show more delta with eyes open. And interesting fact here is that delta is related to some extent to our personal boundaries. So they're very, very sensitive, and they're, from time to time, they may need to withdraw from the rest of the world to stay alone and recover. They literally say, we just have to put these walls and just go away, and we need our space. This extra sensitivity, it has its price to pay. So sometimes they may be considered weirdos. They need to do it for their own sanity and health, just to recover, because they pick too much information around them. And clearly they are empaths. And as a part of brain profile, I did an empathy test. And it was very interesting to see how their brainwaves responded, because I could see them starting to open, and then, no, I'm not going into it, because I let them listen to a very sad story that would make any normal person cry. No, I'm not going into it. So they learned to moderate or contain their empathic response. It was very interesting how it was like they were opening up and then containing their theta and delta back. No, I'm not going into it. I'm not going into it. So that was interesting to see. So here is their delta. So even though I assume if some of it could be an artifact, I can assure you they all will definitely show it 10 to 20 times more than normal person. So over 190, 120, 150, and this is another, this is another group. Some show less delta, but it doesn't make them less powerful mediums. They still do the work. So you can see over 40, 60, 90, 120, 150. So if we are talking, as I mentioned, 3 to 12, it's significantly more than an average person. Even if there are some statistical or mathematical errors or even artifacts here, definitely, because it's repetitive, and especially it will become obvious during experiments where we were sitting and they were doing their mediumship experiments. So what happens, they sit in their power, they open the flow, they start opening their theta to go deeper and showing more and more, opening flow, awaken mind, opening theta, going more and more in their power, evolved mind pattern, drifting deeper, channeling pattern, trying to search, trying to connect, search. So really you'll see evolved mind, channeling pattern, and you'll see how they're throwing their delta nets out, and then they may get the fish and you'll see sticking out theta bands, and then they may start talking, like channeling someone. Here is a person who was diving into this pattern again and again and again, almost every single time. It's typical for him. And you can call this pattern near out of body, because everything else looks insignificant compared to delta or yoga nidra. So his past, in the past, he used to be a hypnotherapist, quite successful one. So he called it washed over, and that's how he describes it. At some point, it is like my whole body is breathing internally, possibly the chakra kundalini. Breath becomes more focused at the base of my skull with pressure and is pushed like a wave from the ocean, washing over my brain, collapsing behind the eyes as if rolling underneath my brain. Reaching internally to reach out dimensionally. It is a rush of cold, fresh energy, and you feel sucked into it. I feel myself expanding further, going into nothingness, yet present at the same time. That was his description. And here I just want to show you something again from Joe Dispenza's book that was saying, when we move into deeper meditation, when we slow down, very often people feel it like in their brain physically, they feel the focus shifting to the back of their head and go into the middle of their brain. So I can't explain, maybe Deborah could speak here more, but that's how most of them would feel it, that it goes a bit back and then to the center, very core of their brain. So then gamma activity. So as I said, some mediums demonstrate more gamma activity, jolt shifts in the energetics during mediumship sessions in particular. In general, if mediums do not show any significant gamma all the time, they have the ability to switch it on when necessary. And usually these are the cases when they need some kind of extra sensitivity and processing power booster. To me, like clearly gamma is like a booster and they kick it in whenever they need. Mediums showing gamma described it as building up energy and sometimes feel it as heat spot somewhere in their head. Gamma mediums might affect the sensitive EEG equipment more often than others. It's like gamma person expect connection problems, and it's only for gamma people, the rest are fine. And if I let them know about the connection problem, sometimes they could fix the connection back or keep fiddling with the electrodes connection with their energy without, no body movement. I haven't touched them, they haven't touched the electrodes, but the electrode signal quality lights will flicker in red and yellow from conscious or unconscious intention of the medium. So what I figured out with, one person in particular, she was saying, oh yeah, I feel it building up like heat, and then electrodes start flickering. So the quality of connection, it's like I'm losing the connection, something is going on. And then I would tell you, hey, Renata, you're fiddling with the electrodes again, stop doing that. And she fixes it. I haven't touched her. She hasn't touched her electrodes. It's gamma doing something with the sensitive equipment. And then she said, Oksana, wait a minute. I'll try to play with it like intentionally on demand. I'll try to stuff up the connection if I can. And quite a few times when people are showing signs of gamma building up, I'm okay, I just learned it. Okay, I'm running meditation for 8 people group. I'm not stopping the meditation for one person. I'll just see what will happen. And very often the problem will fix itself along the way. So as soon as they settle or something just is established, settled, the quality of connection settles itself. I don't have to even touch their heads, touch the electrodes. They don't touch their electrodes. It just fixes itself. So again, for your practice, expect connection quality problems for gamma people and don't worry too much. It happens more often for gamma people. And then another thing I also noticed that gamma people are quite stubborn in terms of they perform best when they do self-guidance. So when they do their experiment, when they have freedom of what and how to do, they'll show their best. And when they're given guided meditations, especially in the beginning, if they're not used to guided meditations, there will be some fight and struggle. Like gamma is like this smart smart me, I'm smart enough, why should I follow all this? So there's a little bit of competition going on when you deal with gamma people, but they are quite smart. And for me, the key argument working with them was remember that, and Joe Dispenza will talk about it, and many other books and writers will talk about it. To get access to higher power, to higher states, you need to surrender. You need to surrender to whatever you believe in. There is higher power. There is the source. There is the God. There is something you have to admit and surrender to, and only then it will happen. And that really helped gamma people because they are quite sensitive and quite intelligent. So through their intellect, they kind of realize and they're prepared to surrender. And in general, this blending that is so important for mediumship work requires lots of kind of allowing, trust and surrendering. So that's why with the within the second module of the training, we were doing some meditation that would help them to kind of do that easier, faster with less fight. And the more they get used to it, the easier they'll do it. So gamma, we talked about it before. It's just a reminder for you, the really super fast cosmic consciousness. And again, to remind you, if we look at this brainwaves age dynamics, we see that, babies, basically, they spend lots of time in delta, they sleep a lot, and then we'd like develop theta and alpha, and then we start developing beta and stress when we are teenagers, in our teens. And logically, it looks to me that gamma is like a next stage of our evolution where adult human becomes more conscious or spiritual. That's when gamma kicks in. And it happens individually whenever you get to that level, when you go through awakening, through spiritual crisis, kundalini, that's when often gamma may kick in. So interesting facts about gamma. With some, it looks like it is their beta activity, and beta is setting the intention that triggers gamma to open. With others, it could be delta activity. You know, though we see things separately, delta is in the bottom, gamma is on top. It feels like delta and gamma, they are communicating. So delta is opening, and delta will push gamma on top to open, as if what we are looking at is not a flat pattern. It's more like a flow of energy, and there is a point where super slow gamma brainwaves connect with super fast gamma brainwaves connect with super slow delta brainwaves. And so I just gave it as a picture. I'm not claiming there is any science or truth behind it, but it feels like there is some logic and connection between super fast gamma and super slow delta. So it's quite common when delta opens gamma on top, as if it's toroidal pattern, like here in the middle you can see torus. Delta surges, so may cause gamma shoot out too. And in rare cases, it looks like a call from the other side, when it is clearly not electrical artifact, but some strong and repetitive gamma calling, after which, or along with it, we see delta surges. I call it doors open into the universal field, and the loss of connection after some electrical event shock, which leads to out of body or looking like out of body. So I prepared the animated GIF for you. So here is a session which actually happened during Brain Profile Eyes Closed. So where I was basically mainly guiding them into relaxation meditation, place of peace and stillness and silence. And look, we have something going on. Okay, Hadley, I don't see any alpha there because she has tons of gamma. This is very, very strong gamma person. And then after minute 6, there is, you see gamma. Gamma are these pink lines, red and pink. So pink and then purple delta, and then she's out. So to have a closer look, around 6:12, 6:18, that's what's happening. 6:12, there is gamma call, as I said, like a call from the other side. See, and it's not a hook, you know, when it's artifact, it sits like one band sticking out like a hook. No, it was moving. That's the thing. It was calling, kind of. Anyway, the whole thing looks very suspicious, but very interesting, and I'll explain in a few moments later why. So look, we see gamma calling on the picture to the left at 6 minutes, 12 seconds. And then we see a delta opening in response, as I just described. As if someone made a phone call, hey, come out. And she's opening delta doors and coming out, and then she's disappeared. Okay. So, and then the spike, this delta spike will go into 168 microvolts. So this, watch now what will happen. This is GIF, so you'll see these brainwaves in action. Here is gamma calling, gamma calling, gamma calling, gamma calling. Oh, delta opening up in response to gamma. We are losing the connection. Oh no, I forgot something. Hey, but I'm still coming out. I forgot something. We are losing her. Okay. That's it. Bye. The most interesting fact here, sorry, I'll just go back to full screen. The most interesting fact here is, look, her baseline here on the bottom. This is the pattern of baseline. So basically she was struggling because she has so much gamma, all this, you know, bands on top, they completely pulled out the alpha bridge. So it looks like your bridge sits, instead of alpha, sits in lower beta bands. And what made me think that this might be the bridge, with eyes closed, her lowest beta bands would increase. Like normally we would see alpha increase with, eyes closed. She would increase her lower beta bands with eyes closed. So she couldn't open possibly alpha bridge throughout the, first module of the training. She was struggling and she was sitting more in like this shape pattern. But Mind Mirror Portal allows us to increase the scale. So after she disappeared, so back here, you can see after minute 6:18, she dropped out, she disappeared, but I can see there is something still there. And I was wondering, what if I use this zoom in to maximum to see if it's just some noise there? We lost the connection there, maybe just some field noise, some odd combination. So I was increasing the scale. I went below 1. So literally on this odd scale, what I see this universal consciousness pattern or cosmic consciousness pattern where she has alpha open and it's all perfectly integrating and looking great and nice. And obviously from what she was saying, she was in quite a nice, relaxing state, peaceful state. On the other side, I don't know, working with angels or doing what, but it doesn't look to me like electrical noise at all. If it did, I would say we lost the connection, it's something odd, but we can see SAMG still green, both bars green, and just the, pattern itself, very advanced pattern that I saw made me be suspicious again about the state. So I think
that's really fantastic, Oxana. I mean, it looks to me like your universal consciousness pattern here is a resonance with as many frequencies of the field as we're able to measure, which is really exciting.
Judith, I was prepared to see the noise, and rubbish and nothing, but then I thought, okay, let's just see if I keep enlarging to see if the lights are still green, if there is some signal, what's going on there. And she just turned inside out and opened into something she couldn't do normally.
This is really great, Oxana, because I've seen that same flatline pattern on the old Mind Mirror 3 with shamans that we've measured when they go into the underworld. But we had no way of expanding this out to see how, what was happening at 1 microvolt on the old Mind Mirror 3. So I haven't seen anything like this before. So this is fantastic.
Yeah, so you said...
It's even more fantastic because you can't do this on Ballistus. You can't go below 3. You were able to do this because you went into the brainwave display and the meditation viewer of the portal.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And maxed it.
That's something new to me. I hadn't heard about being able to do that because I haven't really had this kind of situation. But that's really good to know that we can do that on the portal.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. And you see, it's what we see is out of body, flat lines, enlarged. When I kept enlarging it, basically you can't even see the lines point in 1 microvolt. So it's enlarged 0 microvolt, but that's what you see. It's like, oops. Didn't expect to see that.
The key here, Oxana, the key is you're at 0 microvolts. So what we're looking at isn't even a regular brain state. They're in some totally other state that isn't even related to a physical brain. I mean, really think about this, what you've just shown here. And I've seen this kind of a pattern once before, not when you enlarge it and you see that there really is a pattern, but this absence of brain activity in a transcendental meditator, a very advanced TM meditator who clearly went someplace else. And all of a sudden the brain got quiet. Literally quiet. There was no real activity going on. And that's what you're showing. This is some totally different state that isn't even related to a physical brain anymore. That is really unbelievable. But that to me is most fascinating. That and the channeling pattern that you get when they go into channeling, same thing. It's all this delta activity, and here you're showing a quiescent brain, really a brain, a physical brain that hasn't got any activity really going on. So they're in a totally different state and not even connected to the physical brain anymore. That, I think, is mind-boggling. I love it.
I was amazed.
This is exactly what I was saying with one of the shamans, a woman. She went into flatline on the Mind Mirror 3, which, you know, we really couldn't measure below 3 microvolts. I mean, see it. Otherwise, it was just noise from the machine.
Yeah.
But you know, we just waited for 15 minutes, and then first of all, she showed a really nice awakened mind pattern, and then all of a sudden, she just went flatline, and we just let her go. And then when she came back, she had another awakened mind flare, and then, you know, came back to consciousness. Where did you go? Oh, I went into the underworld to talk to my spirit guides. Okay.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I wish we'd had this kind of capability back then to see what was going on.
Now you do. So use Mind Mirror Portal. You'll be able to access all of this. And now I'm finishing because I think we're running out of time. I'll just finish with the table tipping experiment. So below is just a picture to give you an idea. So table tipping or table turning is a form of psychic phenomena in which a table rotates, tilts, or rises completely off the ground by the mere contact of the fingertips of an individual or group of individuals. In exceptional cases, tables have been known to move or even levitate without direct contact. The familiar form of seance in table turning is that in which the sitters place their fingertips on the table, then the table moves without conscious exercise of muscular force. So now you can see the picture. There were 3 people and they had eyes open. At times they were closing eyes, they were opening back their eyes. And yes, no way they were using physical force enough to, you know, really tilt and move the table, but the table was shaking and jumping and doing all kinds of weird stuff. I had goosebumps all over me. So again, just here is the person 1 who participated in this table tipping, and you can see the top pictures, the Mind Mirror summary and the Mind Mirror summary plot will give you an idea of how his baseline looks like with eyes open. So it's like what I can see, normal, awakened mind, and from the Mind Mirror summary plot, just to remind you about the colors, these are the rewards when, you know, the machine rewards you for attaining the ratios of awakened mind, and that will be depicted in yellow. Evolved mind in red dots, and gamma synchrony in blue dots on different training levels. And the higher the training level, the less the distortion of the pattern, basically the more ideal pattern you're approximating, right? So we can see that, let's say, okay, the highest patterns that we could see were on the level, like say 4, it looks like it's level 4, and it's yellow dots and red dots, so awakened mind, evolved mind. Below here, though the pattern is not colorful, sometimes it happens, we can see that it looks definitely more like, you know, what we would call gamma synchrony. We definitely see gamma head. Right? And then Mind Mirror summary plot would also show like blue patterns all over the place. So you can see how gamma clearly dominates during this experiment. And then I was just checking and see, okay, so really, is it like a glitch? Or here I'm seeing these blue dots on level 3. Is it like true that there is even something showing up at that high level? And then if I look at the percentages, you know, Mind Mirror Portal again allows you to see these dynamics. This table tipping experiment was the last one, and it was like level 3, 0, 0, 0, and then suddenly 2%. it's not significant, but it just shows that, yes, it definitely kicks in gamma when they were trying to move the table. So consider it spirit working or your own energetics. There is a special word, they call it kinetic energy. You build in kinetic energy, and sometimes they say it's your hidden ability or known ability to move with kinetic energy, not with your hands, move the objects. But anyway, whoever that is, spirit or the person, we can see that it is, sorry, I just read a comment. We had a guest today who said that he is to leave now, or she. It has been almost 30 years since I attended Arthur Findlay College, and I was trained by the 6 trance mediums, including Gordon Higginson, when he was alive, and Judith Seaborn and others. Enjoy your day. So I wish I could hear some feedback from the person like this. Anyway, if you are not with us, I'll continue. So this is the second person, and we see the same story. So on top, you'll see the brain profile as eyes open, and we can see, again, we see some gamma, but we don't see as much gamma and as on like high level as we do during this experiment. So again, it just one level higher, I can see even on level 3, again, I can see 1%. So it shows up that, again, gamma kicks in during this tabled tipping case. So person 3 is less dramatic. There is not as much change, but still there is, more beta dominant because she was talking more during this experiment. And then we did we did table tipping again in the other group. I didn't put the results here, but I can tell you that again gamma kicked in during the same experiment in the other group. So here I am, and basically my question now is what's next? Because my key question to mediums was, why are you doing all this? Why are you so committed to this work? And when I asked them, they answered, we are really interested to push the limits of what humans are capable of. They genuinely believe we are capable of doing much more than we know that we can do. They clearly believe in connection between this world and spiritual world. And to those who connect with the spirits of the deceased, I can honestly say they take their niche and they do their service to humanity because they help people to heal traumas of losing the loved ones. And I don't know who else could be doing that in whatever form, as long as it helps people to continue, makes them more conscious, more aware, and just happy in their everyday lives. That's a great work that they do. But again, they, from other conversations that they had, they're extraordinary people who are able to see spirits in the room, not just deceased, extraterrestrials. They can move chandeliers, they can bend spoons, they can materialize objects, and they can, through the special using special instruments, they can even materialize the voice of the spirit, and not people of this group, but their friends. They can materialize parts of the bodies or faces of the deceased loved ones. So they're amazing people, and they want to know what we can do and basically what lies behind death and how we can connect the worlds. So I'm open now to your questions. This experience, I can tell, I can probably now make the whole training for just developing of intuition and psychic abilities, since I learned much more about, how they operate, how it works. And really, the more you want something, if you want to develop certain abilities, the learning will be spend more time with the people who already have it. So my life pushed me in the direction of mediums. And I can say since I was a little girl, I was interested in the paranormal, all the ghosts and UFOs and all of it unknown. And I was on the very last training in the evening, I was chatting to one of the mediums, and she was sharing her recent experiences of like seeing spirit people walking through the wall, or seeing half a person materializing. And it wasn't just her seeing it, it was her husband seeing. He's not as advanced medium or natural medium, he could be able to see it. And she was saying, Oksana, I seriously believe we are moving in the world where we are blending the dimensions, we are opening up to see and understand more of how it all works. And then she was describing me her other experiences where she could lose sense of time, like she was in one spot and then she woke up somewhere like 2 hours later, and it just, the time elapsed, time was lost somewhere. How she was driving, how did she get there? She has no memories whatsoever. Or she could be walking in the street and then suddenly start seeing other buildings, different pavement, different, like, oh, it looks like the same street but many years ago. So when we were sharing, she was sharing her experiences, I discovered that I told her, Karen, I have the same experiences, but in my dreams. I never took them seriously. I used to chat to my deceased grandmother in my dreams because I loved her dearly. And it happened as if it was a real meeting. We were just exchanging news and giving each other loving hugs. And it felt great, but it wasn't, oh, I have goosebumps just talking about it now. So it was, and she was like, Oksana, when you will stop blocking it and just letting things happen on your conscious level, it looks like you have same abilities like me, but you just you don't allow these things to come through on your conscious level. And I was saying, no, thank you. I made a conscious choice not for these things to stay this way, because I want to have a safe sleep. Because it's hard when you're sleeping in the house and someone says that, oh yeah, are you sleeping in that bedroom? Oh, in that bedroom there is a man and he once sat down in the bottom of my bed and then he left through the wall, and I'm like, am I sleeping in that bedroom? It sounds like I'm not sleeping this night today. Anyway, it was amazing experience, amazing group of people to work with, and I'm just, happy to see where it will lead next, because they started questioning Oksana with the pace like this. They were wondering where I will be in 3 years, because I thought, me channeling deceased people, no way, I'm not doing this. I once had a dream where in my dream I was calling a spirit and I was in complete disbelief, saying, no, I don't believe in this is impossible. And then it happened in my dream. So when I was calling the spirit in my dream, it actually happened. And I was transmitting the thoughts of the person in my dream, or that spirit in my dream. I could see that there was my grandmother, my sister, and they couldn't read the messages, but I could see the spirit and I could receive the messages from the spirit in my head telepathically. So I woke up in cold sweat and basically said, oh, thank you, but I probably would never try it in real life because I want my health and sanity, and if I try, it may work. So that's my clear position on that. And then I really respect those who can use their abilities, to help police to find those, killed, deceased, lost people, and help to find their bodies. It's hard work, and you have to face not the very brightest, the very bright side of life. So I can't say I'm prepared to do that. So I was just laughing back to them saying, I don't know where it will lead, but hopefully it will lead to some nice place. And they replied back, yeah, no problem, because you may be channeling something positive and something nice rather than looking for lost spirits or lost people. Okay, here I am. If you have questions, you're very welcome.
I have a comment, Oksana, just to say that you are just an absolutely terrific researcher, and I'm so happy about that, and a brilliant presenter. This was absolutely groundbreaking work for the mind mirror, and I really appreciate how you synthesized everything and showed visual evidence of it. Really, really beautifully done. Thank you.
Judith, if you are interested, if other participants are interested, because we did healing experiment in the last group, and it was very interesting to see how they behaved during healing experiment. We did really clean, like 2 people, a channeling experiment where we didn't expect but both mediums, and one of them was saying, I'm not even a medium, I just occasionally go and participate in sit-ins. She channeled as well. They both channeled, and I have voice recordings because I used Mind Mirror voice recording function. So I have the voice recording actual of their channeling, and you can definitely tell that their voice and everything changes, because one was trying even to speak with the male voice, which was quite hard for her. It was amazing.
I would love to see a program on that. And I'm also, since you mentioned it, extremely interested to see how they did with my Cosmic Waves track out of the Superconscious Mind album. Yeah, that would be very cool to see how if they went out of body. Yeah.
Judy, then I suggest to be continued, and I probably will compile next program something as case studies and just look case by case. This was this experiment, and this were the interesting findings, and this was that experiment, because healing was great. Cosmic Waves was very interesting. The Wise One was very, very interesting. Exercise Your Game was very interesting. I mean, the feedback and what I saw, and simply just training the keys, because we couldn't do audio feedback, but we did some visual feedback, and they learned actually to sense when they have alpha open or not. Definitely they could sense it. And my biggest breakthrough was that I learned that those who were struggling most in the beginning, because they can open alpha, but some were struggling to sustain it, they performed best in the end. They were absolute champions. I was just saying, where you started and where you ended, you did more work than anybody else in the group, and I'm really impressed with the results that you showed in the very end. So just show the dynamics, how it worked. It didn't work equally for everybody, but at least they build up awareness. And natural mediums, they're absolutely amazing, because, as I said, they sit in their evolved mind, in their power sport, and they live in it, they breathe in it, they have open eyes in it. It's just their norm. And we also did an experiment which was called Follow the Medium, because that guy who can go into yoga nidra, or basically collapse all brainwaves except delta, and he was doing it repeatedly again and again and again, so he's really master of diving in the unified field, if you can say so. He was guiding the group to follow him. And that was interesting too, because I thought if they let them allow themselves to blend and follow him, that may work, because not many can do that. And they were interested to try something really far out, extreme, or deeper trance to them from what they normally can do. So that was interesting as well.
So before we go, does anybody else have burning questions you want to voice?
And I'd like to just comment on the fact that you measured evolved mind pattern with no electrical brain activity, and I think that's the most remarkable thing I've seen. That opens up a whole new field of research, I think. It's just great. Good for you.
Oh, thank you.
Oksana, I know I taught you this when we were doing your training, but I can just extend it right now to say that we have this table of subjective landmarks that features the 0 to 6 Lesh scale and tracks the descent into higher awareness through meditation. And on Lesh 6, Anna had placed the monikers awakened mind or evolved mind or out of body patterns, and she had an awakened mind for Lesh 5 too, with sharp and vivid and clear image. but Lesh 6 is the one that was nothing matters other than just being sensations of light. So that's definitely a higher state of consciousness. But one day I was rereading Max's book for the umpteenth time and noticed for the first time that that Max didn't actually put names next to the Lesh. He just said that the dive was patterns, and he showed alpha coming out for 0, 1, 2, 3, and then theta for 4, which was the more the you got that one. And you know, so you're getting to a meditation pattern. But on 6, which we said, which Anna says was awakened mind, evolved mind, he said delta only, occasional flares of delta only. And when he said that, somehow I had been studying, thinking along certain lines, and I realized, and I think this is what you're seeing here, is that when you are dropping, and we saw that drop when you did the 1, 2, 3, and the 4, when you're dropping down into only a connection with the field, that the next thing that's going to happen is you're going to blow into an evolved mind pattern, because now you're resonating with the frequency of the field on the 44 hertz scale. But if you yourself have had a lot of done a lot of spiritual work and a lot of meditation work, and you can sustain those high gamma frequencies, then that's going to be an evolved mind on the 100 hertz scale, which is what you're showing us. And I've seen the same thing at the Monroe Institute, where people who go and hit the target, Jim being one of the constant target hitters himself, where they travel out of body. They say, I was in the top of the room and I glided over and I circled the target box and I perceived what was in the target. And then they came back and they correctly and perfectly reported what was in there. And their brainwaves had just collapsed down to 2 or 3 microvolts. And they were just sitting there doing a little tiny awakened mind pattern that would go into an evolved mind pattern, which would go into a gamma synchrony pattern. So I think that what we're looking at here in the mind mirror is just the lens where this light, this spiritualizing light, comes into consciousness, that the brain is more receiving than it's actually producing. And in that dance between those patterns at these super slow microvoltages, I think we're seeing the person, the brain, the body, all powering up and being made more pure, if you will, but certainly more coherent inside of the patterns that we know to be the ideal patterns. And so you're going way down to blast into perfect wholeness and unity with all that is across the array of frequencies, which is, yeah, Jim, I agree with you. I mean, I think this is mind-shattering stuff, and that you have figured out. I didn't know you could go down to 0 microvolts inside the portal. I never had a need to, but now I see that next time we go to Monroe Institute twice next year, should COVID allow, then what we must do is start looking at these flatline patterns down in 0 microvolts and complement your beautiful research here with what we find there, which, you know, more size states, out of body size states, cosmic consciousness. You really have done some brilliant work here. Thank you.
And Oxana, I'm going to have to check back with someone else I've been working with, a Canadian neurofeedback therapist who's done a lot of work with psychedelics. And she did her master's thesis on the 1 through 20 hertz squash, meaning that she would train people down to less than 3 microvolts. And what she found, and now she's doing traditional neurofeedback Z-score sort of training, so we're not looking at patterns, but she said what she found was that when people were able to squash that range and then come back, that the normal pattern or the normal brainwave Z-scores and so on would come back to normal, and it would renormalize the functioning of the brain, so that people begin to recover from trauma. She's looking primarily at trauma. I've got her thesis. I'm going to have to go back and look at that all over again. I'm wondering, with all of these mediums, have you looked at the ACE scores, the Adverse Childhood Experience scores? Because sometimes a large delta indicates childhood trauma before the age of 2. It could be physical, psychological, emotional, sorts of trauma. And people, as they become more, let's say, more of the wounded healer, that type of energy begins to re-heal, and they begin to use that energy that they needed as a child to protect themselves, becomes a way of healing themselves and healing others, and connecting with the world around them. So I'm just wondering if you might want to just give an ACE score test. I mean, it's only 10 questions to the people you've already worked with, just to get a feel of where they're coming from in terms of childhood trauma.
Gary, this is a very good point. And you remember I even asked you to send me this, questionnaire to check for the trauma and check for hypervigilance, because hypervigilance is also related to delta and may come from childhood trauma. So I found that these hypersensitive people, but where it comes from and to what extent it's healthy, or it may be just bordering with the norm, or what is it? I haven't done it, but if I continue to do more groups, because if there is a request to do more groups in other cities, I probably will have, will be better prepared, and I will collect all this information. I'm just learning. So these are really just 2 experimental, my very first groups.
Yeah.
So I'm testing
marvelous.
it out and learning along the way myself. What is possible? What should I do? What I should never try again? What works? What doesn't work? What to expect? How to prepare reports? And reports takes lots of time. So processing feedback is very important, but it's very hard to collect and process again. Anyway,
Yeah,
I'll learn. I will use it.
Well, that quiz can be easily found online. Just Google adverse childhood experiences, and there's all sorts of information on there. Wikipedia and all sorts of different sites give you the quiz as well as explain it in quite a bit of detail.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I just want to wonder if someone wrote several studies of mediums. I can't, Emil Carrixium, indicate very high rates of childhood significant trauma, 85 plus.
Oh,
So,
interesting.
yeah, and I mean, all I can say, to me, definitely there is a proof that there was some experience, unless they're just naturally born this way, that something cracked them open, in every sense, cracked theta, delta, so they become more open and more sensitive than, an average person.
I've
Well,
seen
there's
the same
also
thing with
near-death.
psychics. It's hypervigilance. The same thing with psychics, and I know it's the same way for me. Is that I was, even as a child, due to various childhood traumas, I'd be walking home from my little church on Sunday, and I'd feel the radar. What was I going to find at home? I would feel my radar extending out, walking along in my little daydream. But as I got closer to home, I would start to imagine, okay, so who's doing what? What's going to be like today? And all the psychics I've interviewed have said the exact same thing. And some of them suffered incredible trauma. I mean, I've heard some stories that would knock your socks off. And that's what it is that they turn that radar on. And when they turn the radar on, the psychic impressions come right back on the opposite end of that ray. Just, it's not a barrier. It's permeable. We're so permeable. Yeah. You started to say something, Deborah?
Near-death experiences, a lot of them have come into contact or had near-death experiences. So the ultimate trauma, almost dying. And I know this because I've had a lot of interactions with mediums from Lilydale. If you know about Lilydale, New York, it's the oldest spiritual community in the United States. And they were all mediums. So I have very dear friends who are mediums from Lilydale, and I've known them since 2004. So yeah, I mean, the work you've presented is just outstanding. And to ditto just what Judith was saying, your presentation was so professional. It's just beautiful. And I'd love to have any more information you have from the sessions you did with healers. That would be outstanding to see some of that, but your presentation was just beautiful, really elegant. So wanted to thank you very much for that. I got kicked off of Zoom here. My computer froze and I had to come back in, but I wanted to thank you very much, Oxana. That was just beautiful, really.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. And before we take off and I disconnect, I was just wondering, I can't really see everybody, not everyone has camera on, if there is anyone from my group, because I send invitations to mediums to join us, even, you know, knowing these are early morning hours for Australians. If somebody's there, could you please show up now and say a few words? Or if not, we may save it till next meeting and I'll be a little bit more prepared. And as I said, I could do more like case studies and just do case by case, you know, having closer look at different exercises and meditations and how they affected, because this was just the basics, the basic findings, major findings.
Looking forward to it, Oksana.
Okay, then, to be continued, and see you all next month.